Hi there. Today we are going to review qualitative graphs. Okay. So the more that we practice these, the better you will get at them. So that's why we are just going to review this. So for number 1, it says the graph below displays the population of bacteria in a dish. Describe the change in population over time. So as you can see, there's no constant rate of change, because when we have a constant rate of change, that means that we have a zero slope. So the way that we can describe this is over time, the bacteria grows more and more, because as you guys can see, we do have a positive slope, and it does start kind of slow, and then as time progresses, as you can see, our slope becomes more at an increasing rate. So something that I can write about this is the population is increasing over time, but not at a constant rate. And then you can also, if you want to go into more detail, is you can write it slowly increases, then changes to increase dramatically. Because as you can see, it slowly increases, and then all of a sudden it goes really high up, which means that it does increase dramatically over time. Alright, next one. An oven is being preheated in order to bake a cake. Sketch a qualitative graph to represent the temperature of the oven over time. So over time, time is going to be our x-axis down here, and the temperature of the oven is going to be our y. So think about when you are preheating an oven, okay, your temperature at the time is going to start down here. Okay, so this will be like your normal temperature, like where it starts at, okay? Then as you're preheating it, we know that it's going to increase in temperature. So I know for sure that I am going to have a positive slope here, okay? Because over time, the oven is going to get hotter and hotter until we reach whatever temperature we put the oven at, okay? So like if we are going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees, that means that when it gets to 400, then I'm just going to have a constant rate, because it's going to stay at 400. So if I'm going to have a constant rate, that means that I am going to have a zero slope, okay? And yes, I know this isn't perfect, so just try your best, okay? And then they don't say anything about like turning off the oven or putting it back to where it needs to be. So if you just wrote this, I would be fine with this. If you wanted to show that after the 400 we put it back to where it started at, that is totally fine too. Okay, but your graph should at least have the positive slope to represent the oven getting hotter, and then a zero slope to represent the oven at its set oven temperature that we wanted it to be at. Okay. Alrighty, looking at the next one. So roller coaster. The graph below shows the speed of a roller coaster during the first 30 seconds. Describe the change in speed over time. Okay, so as we notice, the speed increases very fast at the very beginning. So this might be like one of those roller coasters where you start at no speed and then all of a sudden it just darts you out to begin with. So that's probably a constant speed. So this is probably when it's like going up the top of the hill. Okay, so it's going up the roller coaster. And then notice how your speed drops increasingly. So that's probably when it went down the hill. Then it became constant again. Then the speed slowed down. Then it was constant, slow down, constant, slow down. And then as you can see, it eventually stops. So we just need to write that as a sentence. So, okay. So again, we're going to start here. So notice how it increases dramatically at the very beginning. So the speed increases quickly. Then it slows down until it is at a constant speed. So that was talking about this part right here. So as you can see, it increases quickly, and then it slows down, and then it becomes into a constant speed. And then now we're going to talk about what this is doing. So obviously it increases dramatically again. So after the constant speed, then it increases again dramatically. Then slows to a constant again. So that's talking about those parts. So after here it does slow down again and then becomes constant. And then we could put, then it slows down, constant, slows down, constant, slows down, constant again. I'm just going to say how many times it happened because I don't want to repeat that multiple times. So I'm just going to say after it has 3 drop-offs. So we call these drop-offs, like you drop and then constant, drop and then constant, where the speed drops, then is a constant speed. And that's what that's kind of showing down here. It's not exactly constant, but it does start to slow down again. Alrighty, so as you guys can see, yes, it is a lot of writing, but we have to describe everything that happens. So you just take it step by step and then just write in words what's happening, okay? Alright, so next one. The graph below shows the amount of money in the Soccer's Club account. Describe the change in balance over time. Okay, so as you can see, the balance does not start at 0. Okay, so we do have a balance that's higher than 0, and what starts it is over time it stayed the same, okay, because we had a constant rate of change there. Then it increased. That means that there's more money that got added over time. Then it became constant again, and then notice how we have a negative slope here, so that means that they probably took out some money, okay, over time. And then once again it ended to a constant rate of change. So let's just write all of that. So I'm going to say the team had a constant amount of money until they had a fundraiser and received some money. So that's talking about the positive slope. So receiving money is the positive slope, and then it becomes constant again. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this negative slope. So that means that they probably had to pay for something. So then they had to pay for something. Which caused their balance to decline. And then the last part here is just saying that it ended off with a constant rate of change again. So then it remained constant. And that's it. Alrighty, moving on to the back side here. So I want you guys to practice these 2 problems here on your own, okay? And then I'll show you guys my answers that I had. So you guys go ahead and try 5 and 6. So go ahead and pause this video and then press play when you are ready for the answer. Okay, so you guys should be done with 5 and 6. So look at number 5 here. So number 5 says the graph below shows the altitude of a hiker during a hike and describe the change in altitude over time. So what I wrote here was the altitude increased as time went on. So that was talking about this first part here. Then the altitude increased more dramatically, or you can even say at more of like a constant rate of change. Until they reached a constant altitude. So that talked about those first 3 steps here in our graph. Then after the constant altitude, they increased their altitude again at a constant rate of change until coming to another rest at an altitude. Then the hiker decreased altitude before reaching another constant break, and then eventually decreased altitude until they reached the bottom. And again, there's different versions that you can write of this, so just make sure that you are talking about, is it increasing, is it constant, is it increasing at a constant rate of change, so just make sure that you guys are putting those in your sentences. Alright, and then number 6 says, the graph below shows the tempo of a song as it is played. Describe the change in tempo over time. So I wrote that the tempo is constant, then it increases at a constant rate of change, then it is constant again. Then the tempo increases at a constant rate of change before the tempo is constant, and then it decreases at a constant rate until it reaches constant again. So again, as long as you guys are describing those different slopes and telling if it's a constant rate of change or if it's increasing at a constant rate of change, then please make sure that you are being specific on all of your sentences here. Okay? All right, last one. So Ryan monitored his heart rate while exercising. During the warm-up, his heart rate increased slowly. While exercising, his heart rate increased rapidly and then steadied. During cool-down, his heart rate lowered quickly. Sketch a qualitative graph to represent this situation. Okay. So our x-axis here, since we are talking about over time, our x-axis is going to represent time, and then our y-axis is going to represent his heart rate. So for this one, it depends on where you guys are starting your numbers at, but I probably won't start it down here at 0 because that means that he has a 0 heart rate, which means that he is dead. So I am not going to start it there. So I'm going to start it somewhere up here, okay? So the first thing that it says is during his warm-up, his heart increased slowly. So if it's increasing slowly, that means that you're not going to have a slope that's increasing rapidly. We are just going to have a slope that's not so constant. So it's not a constant slope, but it does increase slowly over time. So that would be that slope. Then while exercising, his heart rate increased rapidly, and then it steadied again. So if it increases rapidly, that means we are going to have more of a steeper slope, and then it becomes constant again. So that's that first part. Then during the cool down, his heart rate lowered quickly. So during cool down, that means that he was up here, and then if it lowered quickly, that means we're going to have a steep slope, and then it's going to reach back to where he started at. So our graph would look something like that. Okay? Alright, so this was a review of our qualitative graphs. So if you have any questions, please let your teacher know. Thank you.